Welcome back, Jill Sweetman. And for those of our listeners who haven't met you before, you are known as the Brain Whisperer. You're a neuroscience specialist in education, learning and development. So we've been talking about the power of questioning and ignorance. And you shared with me that you have a model called The Domains of Ignorance from a Professor Anne Kerwin. Now, what's that about?
Oh, Robin, it's fascinating, and I think all of us can relate to all of the different steps, but I think it might be worthwhile to talk about each one, and then we might describe it a little more. What do you think? We
Yeah,
could
sure.
talk
Yeah.
through the model. So,
Overview and then breakdown. Sure.
sure. So the first step that she talks about is looking at the known unknowns. We all have known unknowns, the things that you know you don't know.
Yes.
I've sure got a lot of those.
Yes.
And then she talks about the unknown unknowns. Of course, what it is that we don't know that we don't
Don't
know.
even know.
That's
Yeah.
correct. You know, the unconscious incompetence, if you like. It's on a different model. And then she talks about errors. They're things that you think you know, but you don't. You
Yeah. So
think
you're
you know.
making errors and you're unaware. Yeah.
That's exactly right. Or we're making the wrong assumptions about things.
Yes.
And then
Right.
she talks about the unknown knowns, all the things you don't know that you know, that tacit information, if you like, or tacit knowledge, the stuff that we're not aware that we know, that forms our background knowledge, if you like.
Yes. Yeah.
And this is an interesting one. The next one she talks about is what she calls taboos. In other words, things that are dangerous to know, that are forbidden knowledge, perhaps even polluting. The things that are just culturally, it would be in every family, every
Inappropriate to.
organisation,
Yeah.
every country, every small community. There are always those taboos.
Taboos that.
Yeah. And finally, she talks about denials. They're the things that are too painful to know, so we suppress them.
Yes.
So yeah, it's an interesting spectrum and gambit to actually look at, isn't it, Robin?
And so the domains of ignorance. So her label of that. And you were saying on one of our previous interviews about ignorance. So can we just sort of tie that in with that
Sure.
sort of shame, I think, that ignorance, the word ignorance has,
Yeah.
because people see it as dumb or silly rather than the whole learning through questioning, rather than just taking that first response that we get from a question.
Sure. Well, Dr. Marlies Witt in the United States is also involved with the University of Arizona and has in fact designed a course with Professor Anne Kerwin, which is interesting. And she talks about the triad being curiosity, ignorance, and questioning, all just being part and parcel. You know, we wouldn't criticize someone for being curious or to ask questions, and yet you're right, there is some level of stigma around ignorance. But how often have you been in conversation and said to somebody, goodness, I'm ignorant about that, can you tell me more?
Yes.
So
Yes.
it's a connotation that doesn't have to be there. But
Yeah.
I think the beauty of this is to, in any discipline, in any of our professions, is to acknowledge where we could be making the wrong assumptions, and when with new information or be seeking that new information, that a different set of assumptions can occur, and from that insight and innovation comes.
And we make a different decision as well.
Sure,
So
absolutely.
let's go back to those first couple that you mentioned, first one of the model.
Sure. So that she talks about known unknowns, the things that you know that you don't know. So perhaps that's where Anne Kerwin's work with looking at an ignorance log comes into play, and
Yes.
also Dr. Witt's work. And these were with medical students, I might add. These are not people that aren't without intelligence, are not already learning a lot. And I think the beauty of that is, if it's happening in the medical profession, surely it can happen with us.
Yes,
So
totally.
it
Totally.
is, and you've mentioned before, there's an enormous amount of courage and humility that is ascribed to that. And therein lies a great beauty in being willing to open different doors in our brains so that we
Yes.
can stride down new avenues and be seeing things differently.
Yes. Yes. So what's the next level?
The next one is the unknown unknowns, the stuff that you don't know that you
That you
don't
don't
know.
know.
Correct.
Yes.
And I think that all of us, and any of us who've ever walked into a library, picked up a book or looked at an ebook or research, we realise that the more you start to learn, the more you realise you don't know.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
so it's,
And there's that saying, when you know more, you do more, because you may be totally oblivious of something. It might be global warming, it might be cooking, it could be science, it could be anything. But when you learn more, you go, oh wow, I can actually do something about this, or I can learn more about this. So it's that, just, yeah, it is that realizing that you have no clue and being
yeah.
prepared to admit that.
Yes, yes. And I have a friend who's extremely well travelled, and we sometimes talk about the various things that we've done, whether we've gone into a church in this particular city, or whether we've gone through this factory, or whether we went into this shop. And one day she said to me, "But everything is interesting." And I thought, how beautiful is that? It's understanding is, and every moment there's an opportunity to learn from
Yes,
someone who's perfected something, whether it's an artisan or whether it's,
yes,
you know,
yes,
someone on the street. Um, it doesn't matter where it is. It could be a beggar, you know, it doesn't
yes.
matter.
Oh yeah,
That person has validity and has a story. So
yes.
everyone and everything is of interest. I rather
Yeah.
like that.
And we don't really have to travel to do that. We can just
No,
open our eyes in our community or on our transport as we're traveling to work, on a
yeah,
bus or
yeah,
public transport or car, whatever, we're or walking. It's just observing, really, isn't it?
yeah,
Becoming really that conscious observer of life, and
yes.
that's what makes it interesting, rather than just same old, and you're just tune out of everything.
That's true. That's true.
Okay, next
The
level,
next
Jill.
one is looking at errors, you know, all the things you think you know, but you don't.
Well, you think you're right, but you're not.
Correct. I think that sort of stands on its own, that one. And,
Yeah.
and again, you know, that is ignorance, but there isn't the connotation of it being bad. It's just that's what it is. At
But
that
some
point in
people
time,
get into
you
a
know.
terrible fight over this one because they swear black and blue it's this, and it's not. No, it's this. No, no, and they stand up, and that's again the boards. No, no, no. But you've missed this piece of information. When you've got this bit, this is rubbish. This is the truth. Yeah, or this is the facts, not the truth. The facts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the point you make there, Robin, is salient in the context that we have to be willing to change tack with new information.
Yes.
And, and,
Correct.
and you're talking about boards and
Yep.
organizations. It's acknowledging that, my goodness, we haven't necessarily made the right decision. Now we have to do something about it.
Yes. Yes. Correct. I always relate to back 9/11, which is a lifetime ago now. But if you were making a decision the day before 9/11,
Yes.
making it on 9/10, you made a very different decision than 9/11
Yeah.
or 9/12.
Oh, no.
So it was really based on the facts you had. You took this path,
Yes.
and the same as COVID. Based on January, we might have booked a holiday for Easter last year,
Yeah.
not realizing we would never make that holiday. So based on the facts we had, we chose a different we made a different decision. Yeah, we asked different questions.
Yeah.
Okay, the next one
is the unknown knowns, the stuff that you don't know that you know. It's just
so
life.
that's like life experiences, like they're things I think sometimes in conversations that you go, oh, I know that, I've been there, or I can contribute.
That's
And
right.
it's just something that you don't even think is a big deal. You just did that, when you were a child or teenager or 20s or whatever, and it's a big deal to someone else, not to you though. It's just part of your life. Is that what that means?
Yeah, and I think we could extend that, Robin, in the context that if you're willing to ask questions, those questions are based on what you know.
Yes.
So the caliber of questions that anybody asks really determines their lives.
Yes.
And
Yes.
therefore, the more you acknowledge of what you know, or it doesn't matter if you don't even know that, but the humility, the boldness, the willingness to ask questions brings those things to life, and might
Yes.
make a big difference to the person asking the question as well as the person receiving the
Yes.
question.
Yes. Yes. And it's placing a value on your knowledge, isn't it? The
Yeah,
knowledge you already have, and being prepared to go, well, I don't know all of it. I do know this bit. I probably know 10%, but with a bit of research and asking questions, I can learn at least another 50%, even from whoever's in the room, just with what their previous experience is.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
And how often have you been to a conference or you've attended some learning forum, and the best part has been at the end when the questions have been asked,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
and then you hear anecdotal stories. Then you hear the presenter speak with a slightly different voice because they're coming from a
It's off the
different place.
cuff. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
I think there's validity in that. And then the
Yes.
next one is taboos, which I think is rather fascinating, and it's worth thinking about. They're the dangerous or the forbidden knowledge, the things that are kept from us. And I suggest that in the context of many forums, that's important to certainly to protect our children.
It is. It is. And would you see that those taboos sometimes are secrets? That we don't talk about that, or the subject is changed, or that question is just, it's as if you didn't ask it because no one's going to answer it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and that can be damaging as well.
It can, yes. Yeah. So you've got to tread warily with those taboos,
That's right.
or
That's right.
definitely befriend, have a very good collaboration to even be able to find out what those things are
Yes,
in a culture, or a family, or an organization, because organizations also have secrets
yes, that's true. That's true.
they don't want the public to know.
That's
Mm.
right. And when you travel, for instance, you're visiting another country, or you have a guest into your home who comes from another culture, um, you're always mindful that you don't overstep a mark.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I rang a friend of mine in Saudi Arabia with whom I'd done some work, and I remember it was wonderful being with her because I could discuss anything with her, and she
Yes.
would say what was protocol here, and what was protocol there, and yet, funnily enough, between us, everything was on the table. There was no topic that was excluded.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
But I'm sure she learned as much from you as you did from her, because you had that trust, and you were able to. I've done culturally so many wrong things, but sometimes I've been able to go back and apologize. Other times I've just written them notes. I'm so sorry I did this. And I remember once with a beautiful elder in Coffs Harbour, and I set up this interview with her. I was doing a diploma, and I needed this information. And I realized about 5 minutes into it that I had totally set up the thing totally the wrong way. I had highly offended her, and I was so ashamed.
oh,
And I remember just sitting there and saying, and the conversation stopped, and I said, I'm so sorry. I realize what I've done I did this so back to front. I should not have approached you like that. I should have gone through this person, and I'm so sorry. And look, if you want to stop now, it's okay. And she was a beautiful person, and she just said, it's okay, Robin. I knew your heart was open. You
yeah.
just didn't know any better.
Oh,
And it was so thoughtful of her,
yeah.
that whole, I just, yeah. So we did become collaborators, but I remember that, as just being such a kind way
Oh.
of saying, yeah, you totally stuffed up, but I'll forgive you this time.
And how many of us have done it, and how many of us haven't realized that we've done it?
Oh, you've got to go back and fix it, or try to fix
Or
it. I
try
mean,
to.
sometimes it's just gone.
Yeah.
You can't fix it, but I think you need to attempt it. Yeah, for sure.
And as your lovely elder was so gracious in noting that your heart was open, and what appears a breaching of a taboo in one context that dissipates when you know the other party is coming from a genuine intent.
Yes,
That's
absolutely. Ignorance, but genuine intent.
Oh,
Yes. Yeah.
you know, we
Yeah.
can all learn and continue.
We do.
The final one is looking at denials, all the things that are too painful for us to know. So we either don't seek that
Yes.
or we suppress it. And
Yeah.
you know, we're all a party to that at different times in our lives, I'm sure.
And I would see that would be not asking questions because you really don't want the answer.
Yes, that's true. Or we're not listening.
Yes. Yes. Or we're misinterpreting the facts.
Yes.
The facts are there and we're not liking what we're seeing there. So we're creating a story. I think we're good at story making to smooth over that denial.
Yes, and it's also in the receiving of information. If we're in denial, then the information could be coming to us, but we're choosing not
to take it on
in the context or in the manner or in the way it's intended or whatever the case might be. So that's a very interesting one, isn't it?
It is, and obviously why this Professor Anne Curwen calls it the domains of ignorance.
Yes.
Because it is that. It's if we're being given information that we're choosing not to act on or not to put the pieces together. I think sometimes you get this random bit and you go, well, if that's happening, then this will be the flow on. And if that's going to flow on, then we need to take this step so we don't sort of go down in the heap with that. And I suppose that's sort of like could sometimes be a strategic thing with the board as well, that there's a new regulation or a change or a major change of some sort in an industry profession or region, and that will have a flow-on effect. And I think sometimes we use that denial or, oh, I didn't know it was going to happen, but really it's your responsibility to know. You know, if you're in that position of authority and you're representing your members or your association, whatever it is, you have accountability. You must keep up to date with what is happening to your industry or your profession. Yeah. So the domains of ignorance, Jill, is that I think I know the answer here. Whichever level I'm at, but I know that you get called into corporate for all sorts of different situations, and you were sharing that with some of the coaching clients that you have, that sometimes they just need that sounding board that you provide to get them to look through questioning, get them to look at different aspects of actually the situations that they're in or they find themselves in, and so that they can strategically, you know, plan for their organisation and for their staff as well. And yeah, it's quite a big area, but it all comes to questions, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. And also when people are, for instance, in a coaching situation, you often have managers or leaders that have a lot on their plate and they wear a lot on their shoulders. And as you said, it is a sounding board. It's also to be able to plan and to look at the various options. Sometimes just that, the mere pressure of that, the emotional stress that applies to an individual, they often can't see other avenues. And in fact, those other areas or domains may in fact be more attractive for them to take, but in the moment they perhaps can't see it because of imperatives. And
and I think too with the coaching that you do, that the higher up the ladder or the title that person carries, the less appropriate it is for them to share their concerns with their staff. So they're needing that sounding board, as you say, to bounce things off in a very confidential way, knowing that it won't go anywhere, that there is a confidentiality agreement, and but they have that sounding board to run decisions or run options. And what I've seen is that you're very good at option I was going to say option giving. That's probably the wrong word, but
option creating, perhaps.
yeah, option creating. You know, you're good at being able to say, have you thought about this, and what about that, and is this an option? So that's quite a skill that you do have.
Thank you for saying that, and that's why we do the work we do, because we love it.
Yeah, you do. Yeah,
you're in a position where you can see other avenues because you've had experience
in a broader
context, and
yeah,
you know, been across, as you have, in so many different industries, and work with different cultures, that it gives you a breadth, it gives you a domain that perhaps they may not be seeing immediately.
Yes, that's true. Okay, Jill, we're going to leave it there for today. So thank you very much.
Oh, well, thank
now,
you.
Your website for those who are interested in following up or checking out your blog and all the wonderful stuff you've got on your not stuff, that's the wrong word for your website. But it's still Sweatman, and Sweatman is SWEATMAN.com.au.
No, it's no AU.
No AU.com. There you go, Robin.
It's quite all right.
Slap on the wrist. Great to talk to you. Thank you.
Robin.